Good evening. MA Philosophy MPY001 Block number 6 Contemporary Indian Philosopher Unit number 4 B.R.Ambedkar and Raimundo Panikkar. Objectives. The main purpose of this unit is to provide a bird's eye view on the basic philosophical understanding of B.R. Ambedkar and Raimundo Panikkar. The first part, Ambedkar, will mainly focus on Ambedkar's main thought, which were born out of his social thinking. The second part introduces Raimundo Panikkar main concepts and understanding, which have its foundation on his interreligious and intercultural thought. Introduction. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, popularly known as Baba Saheb Ambedkar, was one of the most learned among the political and social leaders of the 20th century in India. He wrote many books and edited many papers. He wrote not only on the problems of the Dalits but also on economics, politics, religion, minorities, education, labor, stratification of society, etc. Raimundo Panikkar, a reputed thinker, has been an inspiring presence in the field of multi-faith and multicultural dialogue for over half a century. He occupies a unique place in the history of both Indian and world history of philosophy and theology by way of coupling Indian thoughts with the Western. Ambedkar's life and work. Ambedkar, the glory of India and pride of Dalit, was born on April 14, 1891 in a low-caste family of suppressed Mahar community of Mahau in Madhya Pradesh. After his graduation, he received a scholarship from the King of Baroda for higher studies in USA and England. He graduated in law and took a doctorate in economics on account of ill treatment not meted out to him. Being an untouchable, he left the service and returned to Bombay to practice law. On 14th October 1935, he declared that he would not die in Hinduism. He served the country as the chairman of the constituting drafting committee. Ambedkar is regarded as the modern Manu and deserves to be called the father of the chief architect of the Constitution of India. On August 15, 1947, he was made the Minister of Law in the Central Cabinet and he resigned that post in 1951 due to the difference of opinion on the bill on Hindu code. He embraced New Buddhism uh, with his with his 3 lakh followers on October 14, 1956. Just before his death on December 6, 1956, his works include Slavery and Untouchability. What is worse, Annihilation of Caste, a reply to Mahatma Gandhi, what Congress and Gandhi have done to untouchables who were Shudras, the Buddha and his Dharma, Annihilation of Caste. Influence and background to his thoughts. Ambedkar was born in a community of those who have been unjustly treated as the despised people of the Indian soil. Right from his childhood, he suffered terribly the social evils of caste discrimination and and its holocaust called untouchability. He was a voracious reader and owned one of the largest personal libraries. He had a vast reading on Karl Marx, Bertrand Russell, Harold Lasky, Leo Tolstoy, and George Bernard Shaw. In a way, Ambedkar continued the same tradition of liberal thought found in the writing of the social reformers like Rande. Uh, Ambedkar's social theory was influenced by the British liberal tradition too. Buddhist teaching also made a great impact on the philosophy of Ambedkar. Ambedkar's purpose was practical rather than speculative, and his philosophy of life was essentially a development and evolution under the condition of an inhuman social order and a wrongly idealized social relationship in India that treated the human existence of Dalit as subhuman. For him, social reform has to come before the political reform. He criticizes violently the caste system. He feels that the caste system as it stands cannot be the basis of society. He believes that the caste system should be rejected as basically unjust. It is a it is a social system which embodies the arrogance and selfishness of perverse section of the Hindu who were superior enough in social status to set in fashion and who have authority to force it on their inferiors. Caste does not result in economic efficiencies. Caste cannot and have not has not improved the race The whole life ambition of Ambedkar was to regain social equality to the former untouchables among whom he was born. Ambedkar's social thought, the ideal to be realized is of one man, woman, one value in all walks of life, political, economic, and social. This ideal of one value is to be achieved by stopping religious, social, and economic exploitation of men, women by men, women. Absence of exploitation in any form is the essence of socialism. Socialism does not only embrace economic equality but also social and political equality. The foremost hindrance to socialism is India is the caste system in Hinduism and its byproduct untouchability, which denied almost all the human rights to the untouchables. Following all the characteristics of Ambedkar state socialism, condemnation of existing social, political, and economic order as just order, and advocacy of a new order based on the principle of one man, woman, one value, one vote, a belief that this ideal is realized through socialism and parliamentary democracy and unconstitutional means, a revolutionary way of establishing social democracy to carry out the program of social solidarity. He has expressed his desire in the parliament to establish a social democracy which would satisfy the economic, social, economical, and cultural needs of the people. In his concluding speech in the Constituent Assembly on 19 November 25, 1949, he declared social democracy means a way of life which recognizes liberty, equality, and fraternity as the principle of life. These principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity are not to be treated as separate items of a trinity. Mm, they form a union of trinity in the sense that to divorce one form from the other is to defeat the very purpose of democracy. The basic concept of Ambedkar's political thought is the equality of all men women, which is to be achieved by the state socialism of a constitutional and parliamentary democracy. Origin of caste and untouchability. The concept of the origin of caste and untouchability, according to Ambedkar, is to large extent different from that of the Vedic and non-Vedic theories of caste. Ambedkar holds that caste are, as a closed system has its genesis in the practice of superimposition of endogamy over exogamy. The practice of untouchability for Ambedkar has its origin in the face of conflict between the settled and nomadic tribes and those who were defeated in the war were forced to be the broken men. The broken men women in the course of history due to the onslaught of Vedic Brahmanism were turned into untouchables. Dalit annihilation of caste system. Annihilation of casteism is one of the most essential elements in Ambedkar's socio-political, socio-philosophical frame. It cannot be done just by abolishing the subsects, nor by intercaste dining. Ambedkar proposes a solution on two levels. Number 8, the proximate immediate means to remove caste is intermarriage. But number B, but the fundamental remedy consists in bringing about a social reform before political reform and in denying the faith in Shastras, where he says you must not only discard the Shastras, you must deny their authority. You must have the courage to tell the Hindus what is more wrong in their reason. According to him, the Hindu is the sick man, woman of the society who makes other people also sick. His protest against Hinduism was expressed by burning Manusmriti in a public meeting. Ambedkar's political philosophy, his political thinking seems to revolve around the following two conventions. The number A, rights are protected not by laws but by the social and moral conscience of the society. Number B, a democratic form of government proposes a democratic form of society. Indian constitution remains indebted to Ambedkar for his significant contribution to the peaceful living in the land of diversity. For Ambedkar, state is to provide security against internal disorder and external aggression. The state stands for the welfare of its members. It is the people who make the state, and hence the state is to serve the needs of the people. It is a means to achieve a common good of the society. Between state and society, Ambedkar would prefer society as the primary and state as secondary. State, according to Ambedkar, is not to a divine or origination but of human origination. To him, the state is a human organization with its objective being the protection of the rights of the individual. One of his major convictions, evident in his political philosophy, can be stated as the state was not an end in itself, but only means for the furtherance of human ends in the interest of a better future of the society. He greatly emphasized the role of the law of a state in the growth in the individual. To him, law was an important factor in maintaining social peace and justice among different groups of people. Thus, he concluded that all are equal before the law. He upheld right as the basis of the human development and the nation at large. Ambedkar advocated one state, one language formula because he thought it would be a solvent to radical and cultural conflict. He also advised his country fellow that if they were writing to remain united and integrated as a whole and want to develop common harmonious culture, they should put all the efforts to adopt one language, Hindi, as a common language. The division of the states on the basis of language has created blocks in realizing the Indianness. It has given vent to the upsurge of regionalism that has attenuated the integrity of India. People have confined themselves within the walls of the state. Therefore, it is very difficult to accept others as brothers and sisters. Idea of freedom. Ambedkar's idea of freedom is very different from Gandhi and Nehru. The main concern of these two national heroes was more of political freedom, but Ambedkar's main focus was political freedom with social freedom. For him, political freedom was meaningless without the social and economic freedom. His life was a hope for the helpless people who were exploited unjustly. Meaning meaning of democracy. According to Ambedkar, democracy is not merely a form of government, it is primarily a form of associated living of conjoint communicated experience. For him, the essence of democracy is the equal share in the existence of human rights. He realized the incapability of Western pattern of democracy and he gave a new meaning to the term democracy. For him, democracy means the absence of slavery, caste, and coercion. The roots of democracy are to be searched in social relationship in terms of the associated life of among people. Concept of human person. He develops his concept of human being in relation to his understanding of social order. According to him, a good social order must recognize the individual in the society. By recognizing the individual, a good social order collectively recognizes the good of the community. In the absence of the individual, the notion of society or connectivity ceases to exist. Therefore, the primary role of a good society is that it should treat man woman as an individual first. He she needs to be respected in the society for the reason that he she is a human person. He further holds that human existence is not to be treated solely in the physical sense alone, but it has to be respected in the sense of something higher, that a human has spiritual super existence through knowledge and love. For Ambedkar, respect of the individual devoid of any caste, class, stratification is sacred. For him, the human society is to be built on the foundation of freedom or liberty, equality, and fraternity. These values are based on the notion that the individual human person is not a means but an end himself. While the concept of liberty emphasizes the inviolability of the human person, the concept of equality insists that the right of the individual is to be treated as an equal and to be and to be respected as complete member of the society irrespective of his attainments. Similarly, fraternity, according to Ambedkar, is the disposition of an individual to treat man, woman in reverence and love and dignity and the desire to be in unity with other fellow beings. Fraternity gives strength for the individual to commit for the welfare of all. Ambedkar further points out that the tenets of liberty, equality, and fraternity are interlinked to each other and they are rooted in the idea of upholding and totality of the human person as complete individual in the society. His attitude to religion. His attitude towards religion was not spiritual like that of Gandhi. His approach was intellectual and socio-political. Ambedkar holds that religion is a part of one's social life and inheritance. One's life and dignity and pride are bound up with it. He believes in a social force of religion, and that force lies in religion being a unified system of beliefs and practice. According to him, religion is an influence or force suffused through the life of each individual, molding his her character and determining his her action and reaction, his her likes and dislikes in the society. Religion for Ambedkar should respond to the problem of human society and promote human community living. In this sense, Ambedkar recognizes the Marxist frame that religion is a social phenomena. However, he differs from the Marxist orientation that religion is the opium of people. Rather, he strongly upholds that the religion is natural and necessary for human community living. In agreement with the Marxian frame, Ambedkar conceives a false religion as an ideology that could be used as a tool to oppress the Dalit. It is here that Ambedkar makes a critical approach to Hinduism. According to him, in the name of the God and religion, Varnashram, Dharma and untouchability were advocated in India. It was contended that the given unjust social structure was given under the hands cannot be changed. Due to this, Ambedkar developed utmost anger towards Hinduism and Hindu gods, and even god-based religion like Islam and Christianity were not acceptable to him. Perhaps because of this factor, he could not take a final decision or conversion until 1956. Buddhism, finally, he accepted, was not primarily God oriented but was thoroughly Indian. He looked at religion from cultural dimension. He was on the assumptions that if the depressed classes join Islam or Christianity, they not only go out of Hindu religion, but they also go out of Hindu culture. Conversion to Islam or Christianity would denationalize the depressed classes. He separated religion from culture and held Hindu religion responsible for slavery, the practice of untouchability, and exploitation of the depressed classes. Ambedkar was of the opinion that the social ideals of Buddhism are the best ways to adopt it to promote peaceful social living, because the Buddha's method is based on love, persuasion, and moral teaching. Life and works of Raimundo Panikkar, born on 3 November 1918 in Barcelona, to the parents who came from diverse background. Raymond Panikkar became a reputed figure in the field of theology, philosophy, and social thinking. His father was an Indian Hindu, and his mother was a Catalan Catholic. Panikkar was ordained a Catholic priest in 1946. Later, he undertook studies in Indian philosophy and religion. For the next 50 years, Panikkar pursued his academic career as a professor in European, Indian, and North American universities. Some of his works include the unknown Christ of Hinduism, the Trinity and religious experience, worship and secular man, the Vedic experience, myths, faith and hermeneutics, the inter-religious dialogue, and the cosmocentric experience. Basic standpoint, Raimundo Panikkar still remains as a reputed figure in the field of inter-religious dialogue, so his privacy concern is that of culture, religion, and the relationship between the two. Religion, philosophy, and culture are three elements of the human reality. If the first could be compared to the feet with which man journeys towards his destiny, philosophy could represent the eyes that scrutinize that journey, and culture the earth on which human being is walking during his her concrete pilgrimage. An intercultural approach shows that one cannot separate philosophy from religion, and that both are dependent on the culture which nurtures them. Philosophy, culture, and interculturality. Philosophy could be understood as the activity by which human being participates consciously and in a more or less critical manner in the discovery of reality, or orients himself herself with the latter. The concept has thus become the unique instrument of philosophy. Each culture offers the philosophy the language that is essential for the philosophy to formulate its insight, but it is the philosophy that tries to question the very foundation on which each culture is based. Philosophy is authentic, revolutionary, protesting, and transforming. In other words, each philosophy emerges from the bomb of a culture, and simultaneously by questioning what holds that culture together can transform it. In fact, every cultural change has emerged from philosophical activity. It is philosophers who influence most of the destinies of history. Interculturality. Interculturality is the philosophical imperative of our times. Monoculturalism is lethal and multiculturalism is impossible. Interculturality recognizes both assertions and seek a middle way. Interculturality is inherent to the human being, and a unique culture is as incomprehensible and impossible as a single universal language and as one man alone. Interculturality is a possibility situated between two or more cultures. We cannot claim to define through one single word what intercultural philosophy is. Not even presupposes that such a philosophy exists. Each culture is a galaxy which secretes its self understanding, and with it the criteria of truth, goodness, and beauty of all human actions. There are no cultural universals, but there are for sure human invariants. But the way according to which uh, each one of the human invariations is lived and experienced in each culture is distinct and distinctive in each case. Cultural respect requires that we respect those way of life that we disapprove, or even those that we consider as pernicious. Multi-faith dialogue and dialogical dialogue. For Panikkar, multi-faith dialogue is both a highly political and highly urgent activity directed towards creating new forms of human consciousness and corresponding new forms of religiousness. It involves the crossing rivers of traditions in a manner that does not abandon one's political tradition but deepens and extends it. Something new is created at the level of human and religious consciousness. Pannikar's primary principle for religious encounter is that it must be a truly religious experience. According to him, it is more an exchange of religious experience that of doctrine. The dialogue route is existential in intimate and concrete. Its purpose is not to establish some universal religion for the philosopher. It is in order that human relations remain personal. One cannot have human contact with the computer. A machine is not a person. Genuine dialogue between religions therefore ought to be this dialogue between you and me, between you and your neighbor. It should be like a rainbow where we are never sure where one color begins and another ends. It must be free from particular and general apologies. Those involved in interfaith dialogue should not see their task in terms of defending religion in general against the non-religious and anti-religious attitude of secular society. Religious encounter is a meeting of persons, not simply the meeting of minds. It is not only a theological symposium, but a religious encounter in faith, hope, and love. Dialogical dialogue Dialogical dialogue begins with the assumptions that the other is also an original source of human understanding, and that at the same level, persons who enter the dialogue have the capacity to communicate their unique experiences and understanding to each other. There are certain indispensable prerequisites for dialogical dialogue. These includes a deep human honesty, intellectual openness, and a willingness to forego prejudice in the search for truth while maintaining profound loyalty towards one's own tradition. Second, one needs a deep commitment and desire to understand another tradition. Both partners are encouraged to cross over to the other tradition and then cross back again to their own. One learns to think and understand on the basis of the symbol systems of more than one tradition. Symbols are both bounded and open. Their interpretation is never exhausted, and yet they are concrete, always tied to a particular worldview. Uh, the interconnectedness of the divine, human, and nature. The individual who is separate from the others or from the earth or the divine does not exist. We belong both to earth and to divine by our very nature. We are conscious and free parts of a whole, but not as puppets that can be easily directed by threats. But rather, we find ourselves within a cosmic intervening or network. The human being is a person, not an individual. I understand a person as a node in a net of relationship. These threads connect us with our fellow men, the earth, and divinity. The more conscious the person is, the more he she realizes that he she person reaches out of the confines of the world. That is the enlightened man woman. Uh, Cosmo Cosmothendric vision. Panikkar develops his cosmocentric vision of reality with reference to three major religious traditions: the Christian Trinity, the Vedanta Hindu Advait, the Buddhist Pratit Samutpad. He believes that the threefold pattern traditionally, the theos and anthropos, cosmos, are invariants of all religions and cultures. He describes the cosmocentric principle as an intuition of the threefold structure of all reality, the triadic oneness existing on all level of consciousness and reality. In Christian terms, ultimate reality, the Trinity is one, but all three. In Hindu term, the ultimate unity is all things in literally neither one Advait or not two Advait. In Buddhist term, everything is radically related to everything else. Pratitya Samutpad. The cosmocentric principle could be stated by saying that the divine, the human, and the earthly are the three irreducible dimensions which constitute the real. Everything that exists, any real being presents this tribune constitution expressed in the three dimension. Pannikar's formulation of reality as cosmo cosmocentric challenge that the assumption that reality is reducible to being. There is also non-being and the abyss, silence, and mystery. We cannot identify even the consciousness with reality because there are also matter and spirit. Parnikar conceives that reality is not mind alone, or chit, or consciousness, or spirit. Reality is also sat and Anand, also matter and freedom, joy and being. In fact, this is for Panikkar the fundamental religious experience, being or reality. Transcends thinking. Panikkar the cosmocentric vision reveals three assumptions regarding the reality. Firstly, reality is ultimately harmonious. Secondly, reality is radically rational and interdependent in such a way that every reality is constitutively connected to all other realities. Thirdly, reality is symbolic. We do not have a God separate from the world, a world that is purely material, non-humans that are reducible to their own thought process or cultural expressions. Concept of theos. The divine dimension of reality is not an object of human knowledge, but the depth dimension of everything. That is, Parnikar does not want to confine the divine mystery into mere good talk. He identifies divine mystery using the non-theistic term as infinitude, freedom, and nothingness. The mystery of the divine is the mystery of the inherent uh, ex- exhaustibility of all things at once, immediately transcendent, utterly immanent, totally irreducible, and absolutely ineffable. Concept of anthropos. Concept of anthropos. Consciousness is the human dimension of reality which is not reducible to humanity. Consciousness permeates every being. Everything that is consciousness. In other words, consciousness relates not only to humans but humans who know, but to everything else that is actually or potentially known. From the other perspective, if consciousness relates to everything, the human person can be never reduced to consciousness. Panikar presents human experience as a threefold reality: aesthetic, intellectual, and mystical. He critiques technocritics culture for reducing human life to two levels, namely the sensible and the rational, forgetting the mystical aspect. Panikar intention is to show that genuine human experience involves the harmony of senses, intellect, and mystical awareness in correlation with matter, thought, and freedom. Thought and mystical awareness are not possible without matter. Indeed, without the body, all our thoughts, words, states of consciousness, and the likes are also material or have a material basis. Concept of cosmos. Concept of cosmos. The world of matter, energy, space, and time is our home. These realities are ultimate and irreducible. There is no thought, prayer, or action that is not radically cosmic in its foundation, expression, and effect. The earth is sacred. Earth is sacred. For example, he insists that there is something more than pure materiality in a simple stone throw. through its existence in space and time. The stone is connected to the entire universe with which it shares its destiny. In Pannikar's term, there are no disembodied souls or disincarnated God. Just as there is no matter, no energy, no spatio-temporal world without divine and conscious dimensions, every concrete reality is cosmocentric, a symbol of the whole. It is not only God who reveals. The earth has its own revelations. Matter, space, time, and energy are then coextensive with both human consciousness and the divine mystery. Concept of human being. He places human person in a context of culture, as his main concern was that of uh, interculturalism. For him, man woman is a cultural animal. He also believes that culture is not extrinsic to him her but natural. But he further explains that human is a being that is naturally cultural or culturally natural. Culture is a field that make it possible for us to cultivate the world as a world that it itself represents to us. So that man woman may become fully human and achieve his fullness. Culture is the specific form of human nature. The nature of man woman is cultural. Culture is neither artificial nor additive to man woman. The ultimate criterion for condemning another culture will therefore consist in showing that it is anti-natural. Concept of truth. According to Panikkar, truth does not allow itself to be conceptualized. It is never purely objective, absolute. To talk about absolute truth is really a contradiction in terms. The pretension of a great religions to possess all truth can only be understood in a limited and contingent context. Not to be conscious of our myths lead to integralism, but in order to be aware of our myths, we need to our neighbor and therefore dialogues and love. The truth is first of all a reality that permits us to live, an existential truth that makes us free. He says that he is not such a relativist as to believe that the truth is cut up in slices like the cake, but he expresses his conviction that everyone participates in the truth, and the value of dialogue between the various religions is precisely to help me perceive that there are other windows, other perspectives. Therefore, I need the other in order to know and verify my own perspective of the truth. Truth is a genuine and authentic participation in the dimension of in the dynamism of reality. He makes it clear that the dialogue between religion is not a strategy for making one truth triumphant, but a process of looking for it and deepening it along with others. His understanding of religion religion is the path that leads one to the state of fulfillment or salvation understood here in its broadest sense, in anything making one whole, healthy, free, and complete. It could also be understood by different people as heaven, nirvana, nothingness, just society, etc. Thus a religion is that set of practice and or doctrine that which beliefs will lead one to the liberation or fulfillment of one's being. These practices and doctrine are especially temporally and culturally uh, conditioned. Within each religion, one can distinguish three aspects. That number one, the socio-historical expression in and through which a religion is alive. Number two, sacramental or sacred structures that mediate a relationship to the transcendent, and number three, the transcendent divine reality, the mystery, the goal of all religions. All the socio-historical level religions are equivalent to each other. At the sacramental level, they complement and supplement each other. Uh, and the level of mystery, which is neither one nor many, and which is called by many names and is experienced in many ways. Religions bear witness to the infinite richness of the mystery and the impossibility of any one religion to exhaust it. For him, religions are like the different colors of a rainbow. There are several colors, and no colors has a monopoly over the others. Let us sum up. The underlying feature of the philosophical approach of Ambedkar is its praxis uh, orientedness. His philosophical thinking, in other ways, has something to do with concrete life situations, as his thinking was derived from the dreadful practice of casteism and untouchability. The basis of his socio-political philosophy is the establishment of a just society which is free from any kind of exploitation. Even his approach to religion was born out of his social thinking, though he criticizes religion, namely Hinduism, for perpetuating the prevailing poor social status of the backward communities. He also admits the indispensable nature of religion in fostering social living. Focus on Pannikar's experience of Christian, Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, and Christian secularist dialogue. It will outline his rule of the game for interreligious dialogue and intercultural encounter. Attention will be drawn to his distinct level of religious discourse, identified as mythos, logos, and symbol. Panikar's more adventurous proposal for the meeting of the world's religious and cultural tradition will be introduced through a elucidation of his cosmocentric vision of reality, what he now calls the radical trinity of cosmic matter, human consciousness, and divine freedom. The conversation will conclude with an overall assessment of Panikar's contribution to contemporary thinking or multi-faith dialogue and religious pluralism. Thank you.